These I'm gonna start at. Welcome to What's Niggling Me. I got Rye here.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go over a few pods. We're not gonna do the Cash Patel one first, even though I got some on there. Fuck off. There we go. Man, did I tell you? I figured out, remember I was telling you I couldn't do Control V or Control C to copy and paste?
Yeah.
It's because I was pressing the wrong button on my laptop. The control button usually is always in the bottom left of your keyboard, right?
Yeah.
Mine has fucking right there, so I can't.
Yours has what?
Fucking.
Huh?
It says FN next to my control button.
Oh. Why is your FN there?
I don't know, but because it was natural habit for my whole life, I think, I just kept trying to, I never even looked.
That's pretty retarded though, too.
For a month and a half, I never looked. Why the fuck won't this work? I'm pressing the right button, with my thumb.
It kind of makes you sound dumb.
It's just a natural,
Yeah, but...
And then I realized, oh, it's next to it.
When you see it not working 100 times, you think maybe once you look at it.
I'm like, fuck it. I'll just fucking highlight it, copy, right click it.
Fuck it.
I think we'll do JD Vance on Theo Vaughn first, because that was,
I haven't seen it.
You did or didn't?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I forgot. I was watching other stuff. I watched some clips.
Maybe you got the clips? Maybe you heard the clips?
I heard a few. Funny ones.
Okay.
He's got tour dates.
I got tour dates.
29:55, right?
We also got new merch. And he'll say some weird ass color. Black stone gray. What's the black stone gray hoodies are in?
Please, none of these fucking episodes copyright me.
I mean, he doesn't need money, right? That's the one thing Elon does not need.
So was he? I wonder if he was expecting anything from Trump and they just couldn't figure it out. I don't know. I'm just curious about it. I'm kind of like, you start to see how all this stuff kind of works, and just it's like.
Yeah, I hear. I really do think he's disappointed about the bill. He's he disagrees with some of the things that were in there. He's an emotional guy. Look, it happens to everybody. I've flown off the handle way worse than Elon Musk did in the last 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
But my hope is comes back, says, look, made some mistakes. Didn't mean to say everything. Let's smooth it out and let's all be friends. Because again, I care about the country, and I think the country's better off.
He said it yesterday or this morning.
Said what?
I seen Elon apologize, kind of, on Twitter.
Did he?
Yeah. I seen a tweet yesterday. It was pretty funny.
If under the president's leadership, Elon's helping us out as opposed to fighting the administration. I don't want him to fight the administration. I know the president doesn't want that, but here we are.
Yeah, he just tweeted a little bit ago that he felt like 80% of the what was that? About a third party or something.
Oh, this is funny.
He's tweeted like 300 times.
Oh, sorry, never mind. Okay, that's just a
lot
regular
of tweets today.
Just a regular day for Elon. So yeah, he's obviously young. I mean, he's definitely he gets a bit rogue. Why don't we have?
Oh wait, this is interesting.
Hold it up. Let's see.
This post is from an account you muted. I'm curious.
Hey, JD Vance. That's why I told Mom to JD Vance. He's the next president. Like it or not, that's how it's gonna be. But he is more normal than the majority of people that rise to the heights that he is at, because he calls Theo's producer out for, hey, you muted that account. Who is it?
Yeah, I see that clip. I see that. That's funny.
JD Vance is more normal. As tough as Theo asked him some questions, I'm sure he did not want to be asked. But.
Oh, really?
Yeah. JD Vance had a good time. And I imagine it's been pretty stressful since he's been in there. It's been chaos, right, in the world?
Yeah. 100%.
He had a good time here. I know he had a good time. I could tell.
Who did you mute?
Who is that guy?
Is that yours? It's one of your producers.
Ian Neely's song. Oh, it said Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him. Dude, that's one vote.
Oh my God! See, this is what I'm talking about. This stuff is
What are you
just
talking about? Campaigning?
this stuff is just not helpful. Again,
Yeah, Twitter
there's
is definitely.
here's look. My first loyalty is to my family, obviously.
Bro, it was so funny him doing that. And the guy that whoever's Twitter account that is that he muted that person, for that person doesn't live in America. I don't even know if they lived in America, but that person's from like Indonesia or something like that. And
So
what?
weird that he's muted.
Because that person tweets constantly
Uh,
about the United States. Like, that person constantly tweets. He's just always in, like, talking about American politics and shit. So it's funny that person muted him. That person's been around for a long time. That Ian Miles Chung, a long time.
I feel like I've heard it.
I thought that was just a little funny right there. Going to 46 minutes.
Made me laugh.
This one song that, Robert Plant did 35 years ago. We're gonna make a whole new Led Zeppelin song
talking about
using
AI.
artificial intelligence, right? And they want to protect people from that kind of thing happening. So that's a totally reasonable point to me. The reason that provision is in there is because you think about how woke the Google searches got. Remember when you search what does George Washington look like, and it'd show you a picture of a black dude.
Oh yeah.
And
or like a little Japanese George Washington or something.
So the idea is you basically have a federal regulation that prevents
Bro, you could see JD Vance try to get his point across, but then you could also see in his head him picturing a Japanese George Washington, and he couldn't hold it together because of Theo. Couldn't hold it together.
like California from having a super progressive set of regulations on artificial intelligence,
Okay.
right? That's the argument for it. The argument against it is that if the feds aren't protecting artists, then, 5 minutes just before this thing started, and, I was like, don't worry, guys, Theo doesn't have a gun. He's
Yeah.
like, I hope you don't.
No, they checked
So
me.
we're in deep shit, man.
They checked me. Somebody kissed me on the way, and I was like, "That's part of it."
One of the Secret Service
No, I'm
agents?
joking. But I was like, "What's your secret, buddy?" Huh? Oh, that's Milli Vanilli right there. It's babies right there using AI.
Oh my God. Wait, those are Grammys, right? I didn't know. Oh, they took their Grammys away. Well, didn't one of
They
them?
took their Grammys away.
Didn't one of them commit? It's a kind of a sad story, actually.
Yeah, and one of them died a couple years ago. I met one of them one night. I think. Maybe I didn't. I was out late one night. I'll say that. Sorry, that's like crazy. What are we talking about? Let's talk about.
Could have been Milli Vanilli. Could have been my uncle. Who knows? Who am I to say?
I don't know. I'll just say I met one of Freddie's buddies, one of Frederick's buddies out there. I'll say this, man, right now, sir. I will say it. So people have to we all need help whenever we're when you're politicianing, right? Like you need help, you need support,
Yeah.
you have sponsors and stuff, right?
Man, he segues from that. And right now I pause it. I see Cat Williams in the top right corner. It's insane. I didn't know this, and I didn't notice this till right now. This podcast is in Tennessee in Kid Rock's new bar or restaurant or something like that. And Theo must have given him this because I don't think there's many of them. When Theo's Cat Williams thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Gotcha.
the statue?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, it's in the in the room. It's in the room. Here, let me get you fucking real quick. I'll show you. You see? Bro, I just noticed. I watched this whole podcast, and I just noticed that Theo placed that in the room clearly. That's insane to do. To put this right here next to JD Vance. Bro, what a menace.
Hey, gives no fucks.
Bro, I thought that was at his house. He gave the Kid Rock put it in there. That's what do they call that? An Easter egg. Wow.
The hidden messages.
Wow.
Right?
Correct.
There's a lot of speculation and talk. Like one of your primary sponsors is a guy, Peter Thiel, right?
Yeah.
And he's in the tech world.
Yeah.
And I never met him, you know.
What a crazy segue, right?
Bro.
What a crazy segue. And the picture pops up, and he's glistening.
Yeah, I bet.
Peter Thiel's glistening next to Theo Von in this side by side.
Oh, I think
No,
that's
sure.
But you know, there's a lot of these tech kind of lords, like they, you know, technology's grown so much in the
Yes.
past 20 years that it controls a lot of our environment and our life, right?
It does.
What do you owe somebody if you do, like, if you get into office, if somebody like donates a lot of money to your campaign, like, how does that relationship work after that?
I think the attitude is you don't owe them anything. And I think if you take the attitude of you owe somebody something, then you're fundamentally not going to do the job that you were meant to do. I mean, this is tough, right? Because so take my Senate race. First time I ever ran for office was 2022. I ran for the Ohio Senate race. I won.
You did?
That race, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. If I hadn't won, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
then I became
yeah.
the vice president
Right,
nominee,
I
and now
get
here.
that.
So I basically won. I've run
My
two
bad.
campaigns in my life. The first one, the Senate campaign, cost $45 million. The second one, presidential campaign, I think that we spent
That $45 million he said it cost to run for Senate. Nobody's ever spent that much money on any political position except for president ever. Nobody's ever run for any position in government that's spent $45 million. Peter Thiel put so much money into him winning that Senate race. Nobody's ever had that much contributions to a campaign for any position ever, except for president. And then Peter Thiel spent $45 million to get JD Vance fucking elected. 2 years later, he's the vice president.
$1.2 billion.
Jeez.
Okay, so it costs
On
a lot
you.
of money. Well, the president obviously is the leader of the
on
campaign,
him,
but
on the
the
total
total
campaign.
campaign.
Got it.
So it costs a lot of money to run for office,
Yeah.
and you got to go and raise money.
Yeah.
But I think that if your attitude is, I owe something, these people gave me money,
Mhm.
then you're going to end up being corrupted. And you've got to kind of take the attitude of, they're supporting me because they agree with me.
Mhm.
And obviously, like, you have conversations with them. Like, you mentioned Peter Thiel. I see a lot of crazy stuff on the internet about Peter Thiel. Like, you know, he's always been a friend of mine. He's always been one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like,
Oh, really?
just a very thoughtful dude.
Mhm.
But he's literally never asked me once for anything.
So he just believed in you?
He believed in me. He agreed with me on a lot of issues. I mean, he definitely has like said, hey, I don't agree with you on this, but he's never said, I don't agree with you on this, therefore you should vote differently or
Right.
act differently. But it's like, to be honest with you, it's one of the risks of our system. Now, if you think about it, right? Because if you are a super ambitious dude
Mhm.
or girl and you really want to run for office, like, you got to be able to separate yourself from that donor pressure. And think about it, like, if you're going to a fundraiser, okay? Everybody's going to go to fundraisers in politics. Well, that's like an hour and a half you're not spending talking to the people you represent,
Mm.
right? So there is one of the problems in our system is that people spend so much time raising money. I think sometimes, not all cases, but sometimes it can have a corrupting influence on the process. Now, I was talking to a buddy of mine actually about this because his argument is, he's like a political consultant. He's a political hack, but a good dude. He said, He said our system is better though, because in some places they have publicly financed campaigns. And he's like, the problem with places where they have publicly financed campaigns is that all of the control in the political system is with the media. Because like if you raise money, most of what you're spending your money on is TV, radio advertisements. It's reaching voters. Mm-hmm. So if you can't reach voters with TV advertisements, and you got to go on the corporate media to get your message out there, that's even worse.
Right.
So I kind of see both sides of it. I just think as a practical matter, what I try to do is remember that, you know, it's an honor to serve, but it's also a sacrifice to serve. And if people are going to write me a check, great, but I don't want to. That's the attitude I try to have.
Yeah.
He's really good at answering anything. He's been prepared for it. But that was crazy to do that. Theo did it a few times, man, where he just hit him with what the fuck? Like if I was JD Vance, I'd have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I mean we all have people that help us do certain things or are supportive, and then you get in spots where you're like, you know, I used to live with a family when I was growing up, and there's let's yum for better sex. Oh.
No, I don't know if that hits me. That Bluetooth ad.
Like Trump picked out that there's the Palantir company, right?
Yeah.
And that's about a surveillance thing. So this thing is fucked. This sounds crazy, dude. Like this sounds like we're only gonna be human for like 2 more years, right? So this is the Palantir company where they're going to build security databases that have all of our information in them, right? That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
And it's going to have like everything. It'll like look at you and know like if you're good at tennis or if you've ever, you know, if you have $60 in your pocket or if you're, you know, it can tell if your kids are, you know, if your kids can have a limp or whatever, if you'll be in the Christmas play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It can tell all of that. And that feels real scary, man. Like
I get it.
To a regular guy on the street, it feels like we're gonna give our society like we're gonna become these, like they're gonna have know everything about us. It makes you feel like you won't be a person anymore.
I hear you.
Does that make sense to you?
It definitely makes sense to me. I mean, let me try to explain. So to be clear, I'm not an expert on this particular deal. I actually just read about it earlier today or maybe yesterday, but the president did an executive order, I don't know, a couple months ago. And the basic idea is you've got all this different information, but it's not accessible in one place. Mm-hmm. So like, let me give you an example where this might be useful.
Okay.
Let's say you catch an illegal immigrant, okay? And that person's using a social security number, but the Department of Homeland Security that arrests the person can't actually figure out what social security number that illegal immigrant is, what name it's attached to, okay? Or, you know, let's say you're like investigating some terrorist and the FBI arrests the person, but, you know, there are information about like where the person lived a couple years ago that you'd like to have. So you'd maybe like to go, you know, talk to their friends or associates or whatever.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it does sound odd, but that what they're trying to do is take all the information the Department of Homeland Security has, that the FBI has, and just make it so that it's actually not in some hyper inefficient system. It's all sort of accessible. And here's the thing. Modern technology is just crazy and weird, and it affects our privacy. And I think we don't have to think that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It is like a reality of the world that we live in.
Right.
And
so we get a little romantic about things.
Well, I mean, look.
And I think it's going to go back in time.
I mean, look, everybody, I kind of agree with you. I think people are sort of going to rebel against technology a little bit. In some ways they already are. But I mean, look, dude, if I, this has happened to me so many times, where I'm talking to my wife, like, oh, what are we gonna make for dinner for the kids tonight? Oh, let's just like do DoorDash or Grubhub. Mm-hmm. And then you go on like X or you go on, you know, Facebook or Instagram, and there's like an advertisement for a DoorDash coupon. And it's like, well, I was just talking about this 10 minutes ago. So we know that big technology spies on us and harvests our data. I honestly worry more about that than about like connecting the DHS system to the FBI system.
So that's all that this Palantir deal is part. Like a lot of that is just connecting information.
So I'm hardly an expert, but that is my understanding is that it's just taking DHS has information, FBI has information, Secretary of the Treasury has information, and making it possible for that information to be searched by whoever is looking for it.
Ah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
But again, like, I hear that story, and my reaction is the same, which is, oh, I don't like the government having my information. The reality is the government already has my information, and more importantly, some of these private technology companies have way more information on me than the government does.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anywhere you shop has unbelievable information on you. I mean, let me tell you, like,
Dude,
crazy.
Blockbuster, 2 days ago, Blockbuster was like, happy birthday. They were wrong.
So I gotta.
It's like, you're out of business. There's a
Yeah. When was the last time you were at a Blockbuster?
But
And Theo didn't go to one that long ago, right?
I don't know.
Remember he went to the last Blockbuster?
Oh yeah.
Let me go right here.
Focused on getting us addicted to these applications.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do we do about it? I mean, one thing is from a policy perspective, we've already looked into a lot of things we can do on data privacy and protection. So we're trying to make it harder for these firms to collect information on you.
well, it feels like with Palantir, it's like they're going to collect all the information though. So that feels like
I mean, look, my understanding again. So this is full disclosure because I think
Is
it's
there somebody
important.
else
I think
that
it's
would know more
important.
about it,
I think
you
it's important. I think it's important to be open. So Palantir, you asked about Peter Thiel. Palantir is actually one of the companies that he invested in, right? So you know,
Well, he doesn't run
I would be full. My understanding is he doesn't run it.
Alex Karp.
I don't believe that Palantir is collecting any information. I believe it's purely building a database that's sort of combining the information. Is that I might have some of my team that you guys get? Is that right? Is that accurate? Okay, cool.
No,
So-
I'm glad, yeah. 'Cause, yeah, we're just trying to figure it out. And I think, right now, I think Palantir has, like, there's a lot of conflict right now in Gaza. Everybody knows about that.
Of course.
And Palantir is, like, been accused of being, like, complicit in a lot of the violence over there. And so I think that's where it gets really scary for, like, regular person on the street. I'm like, well, if this is the company, because you see videos of, like, horrific stuff online.
Sure. Very sad stuff.
And you're like, well, if this is the company we're hiring, how do I know that I might not be walking down the street and just a sniper bullet could hit me from them?
Yeah. So,
Bruh.
Bro.
That's why I had to say that to Mom. I know you probably don't like or not a fan of JD Vance, but you gotta watch this podcast because it's crazy how Theo can make JD Vance feel so comfortable and ask him about, hey, the person that funded you's fucking company is complicit in killing people over there. Bruh. And guess what? JD Vance knows how to talk his way out of it.
that is
To be really honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I think the answer to that question is the only real protection that we have against that is that we've got to, elect the right people, and we've got to make sure that our government doesn't do crazy stuff. Because I mean, look, any of this information can be misused. Like our government has your social security number. Okay,
Yeah.
Using that information, the government could spy on you. The government could give your information over to an illegal alien to start a fake account in your name. And that, by the way, happens. I had a friend of mine who had an illegal alien steal his social security number. And when he went to the IRS to complain about it, they wouldn't give him information on
The person
who was stealing his stuff. And by the way, that's what we're trying to do is make it so the IRS can talk to the Department of Homeland Security. But the only real protection against this stuff, I think, is to have a government that actually protects the rights of its citizens. And, we should all be worried about our privacy being invaded by the government. I think we should be just as worried about private corporations as we should be the government. I think,
Sure.
everybody can invade our privacy. But I don't, put it this way, I don't think that the solution to that problem is to pretend that the government doesn't already have this information. It just does.
Right.
You got to make sure it doesn't misuse it.
Right.
And that's my view, at least, is we got to live in reality, and the government's already got this information. We just need to make sure they don't misuse it. And on the Gaza thing, just sort of chat about that for a little bit. I mean, I'm like a human being, so I look at this stuff, I see these videos, I see the pictures, and it's very heartbreaking. And just since you brought it up, what we're trying to do here is try to solve two problems here. Okay, so on the one hand, you've got innocent people, innocent Palestinians, and innocent Israeli hostages, by the way, who are like caught up in this terrible violence that's happening as we speak, okay? And we're trying to get as much aid and as much support into people as humanly possible. That's like one thing that's going on. The other side is Israel's attacked by this terrible terrorist organization. I think people sometimes forget that, right? They forget like the thing that kicked this off is that we had this terrible terrorist attack, and you had a lot of innocent Israeli civilians die in that terrorist attack. And so I think what we're trying to do in the Trump administration with that situation is to get to a peaceful resolution. And I think the peaceful resolution looks something like this. You've got to give Israel confidence that Hamas is never going to attack them and kill a bunch of civilians. And then you've got to get as much aid and support into these innocent Palestinians as possible, because in some ways they're caught in the middle of this thing too. One thing that I don't love about the whole Israel-Palestinian debate is I think it kind of degrades our humanity a little bit, because I've seen people on the left, mostly on the left, who will say, well, they'll completely ignore that Israel, like all these innocent Israelis were killed in this terrorist attack. And then you have some people, usually on the right, who will completely ignore that there are like kids who are caught up in this violence. And I think it's why the president has been, I call him the president of peace. It's why he cares about solving this problem, because the longer this goes on, the more suffering, the more death. So we're trying to solve it as much as we can. It's not easy.
Do you have a say in it?
Yeah, I mean, well, the president's obviously the person who makes the final decision all the time. But yeah, I mean, we certainly, I think I'm one of the few people that he's talking to constantly. We're constantly, we're talking to the Israeli government. We're talking to people in the Arab world. We're talking to people in Palestinian territories. Like, we're constantly engaging in diplomacy. I mean, one of the crazy things, dude, is this guy is a very dear friend of the president's. He's our special envoy to the Middle East. Steve Witkoff, he's a Jewish guy, very...
Piece of garbage. Hey? Piece of garbage. This guy is a dirty businessman right here. Dirty businessman.
Pro-Israel. He's done more to try to bring this conflict to a close than anybody. And you sometimes have people who say that they're pro-Israel who attack Steve for not being pro-Israel enough. And I think it's totally bogus. Like, I see this guy operate every single day. He actually is. Like,
he's Zionist.
He's a Jewish guy who believes in the purpose of the state of Israel. Mm-hmm. He also is a guy with a heart who's trying to prevent the killing.
Yeah.
And I think there's just, like, when I talk about this whole debate has caused us to lose our humanity, I think of the people who are constantly going after Steve, because this is a guy, he's a father. He lost one of his own children because of an overdose. And he loves people. He believes in the value of human life, and he's doing a really good job. And he's one of the important people in the presidency here too.
Yeah, it seems like I've heard Mr. Witkoff, but I never met him. But
Good dude. Yeah. You should have him.
Pretty sure he lived next door to Epstein for 20 years.
I think so.
Good guy.
I think the tough thing, just as a regular person, right? It's like we're seeing all these videos of people like picking up pieces of their children, and like it's the sickest thing that's ever been televised. Basically, if you consider watching something on your phone being televised, it feels like a massacre, and it feels like, I've called it a genocide.
Nobody on any Fox, CNN, anywhere would ever say this shit to JD Vance or this would never get said on TV ever. Right? Right?
No.
It wowed me.
Other people have different thoughts about it, and that's fine, right? And I don't need anybody to share the same thoughts, or you two. But I think where it gets scary is that we give, we're complicit in it because we help fund like military stuff, and that's where it's like a regular guy, you're like, well, I'm paying these taxes and they're going towards this, like, but you can't do anything, like you can talk, but it's like, you can't, I don't understand how it becomes like tough for people. Like, sometimes it feels like we look out for the interests of Israel before we look out for the interests of America.
Bruh. It was crazy hearing this. Theo's got 4 million fucking subscribers on here. You know how many millions of people heard him say that to the vice president, we put Israel first? I got 2 more spots on here, I think.
People should demand is that if our tax dollars are going to something, we should be actively trying to fix it. Okay, that's kind of the way that I think about it. And what happened with the Biden administration, man, it's crazy. They were spending so much money all over the world, they weren't engaged in diplomacy at all. So we sent $300 billion to Ukraine, for example, and you never had the President of the United States actually trying to force a diplomatic settlement. You talk about bodies all over the ground. The Russia-Ukraine thing is the most vicious. We see satellite images, we see classified images, man.
I remember when, that's why I timestamped this, was when he said that they see satellite footage of this. I'm like, I knew it. I know that you guys can see anything you want from satellites on the ground. I know it. They're not just seeing what we see as remember when we were pulling shit up about the world? Right?
What?
Are you awake?
Yeah, you?
Do you remember when we were pulling shit up on the map?
Yeah, that was fun.
I know that when he mentioned in here that he's seen satellite footage of the Russia-Ukraine war, I was like, bro, I know that they have that type of technology.
Yeah, straight up.
That's why I timestamped that. I was like, oh, I heard what you said. I heard what you just said. Where is it? Right here.
You're trying to force a diplomatic settlement. When you talk about bodies all over the ground, dude, the Russia-Ukraine thing is the most vicious. We see satellite images, we see classified images, man.
Yeah,
satellite and classified images. How are they getting them? How are you getting them? You have stuff that we don't have, that you can see from up there anywhere in the world, down on the ground.
Must be.
You think you're going to be able to finish this?
Always. Why? I'm not tired.
His attitude is,
This
look,
is my last time
it's
stamp
the right thing for the American
on this
people.
one.
So I think, again, it's an example of when you've got to tune out the financial pressures of politics
sure.
and just do what's right.
Well, people are afraid to get. People are getting afraid to get sick, not because
Okay,
they.
dude, let me.
Sorry, am I being loud to you? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Here's something. No, I mean your normal volume, I would say.
Okay, sorry, I felt a little.
It's
It's not
good.
towards you. I'm thankful that you're spending time with me.
No, you're good, man. So I'll tell you a crazy story. A buddy of mine was visiting recently. He's a friend from back home, and his wife told me the story that his kid, they thought he was special needs, maybe had sort of a neurological disorder, because he was sort of emotional, or not emotionally, educationally behind his peers. Turns out he was just deaf. He needed a cochlear implant.
Ugh.
And it took this my buddy's wife just fighting with the insurance companies for forever to get this kid the medicine that he needed, the treatment that he needed. And now the kid, he's happy, he's healthy. It's a beautiful child, smart child. That's amazing, right? That's what we want medical science to do, is to take a serious problem and make it better. Well, why do we...
You hear Theo
When?
during that? Oh, when he when he told him that his son, or when that kid thought he was special, they thought that he was special needs, and he's like, oh.
Oh, I heard that one. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. You know Chris Cuomo, eh?
Yeah, it's great.
Eh?
What?
There's a sleeper podcast that a lot of people haven't watched, I could tell. Chris Cuomo, with somehow 563,000 subscribers, has 64,000 views on this podcast, and that doesn't make any sense. And it's but he got Tim Dillon.
What?
Chris Cuomo got Tim Dillon for an hour and 12 minutes, and it was so funny because Chris Cuomo hates Joe Rogan and he hates Dave Smith. Chris Cuomo hates Dave Smith, bro. Hates him. He doesn't hate Joe Rogan. He really dislikes Joe Rogan. He hates Dave Smith, bro. And Chris Cuomo didn't realize that Tim Dillon knows Dave Smith well because they both did the comedy scene in New York for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get up, I think, because I can barely hear you.
I'm covering my mic, maybe.
And it was wild that Chris Cuomo got Tim Dillon.
When was this?
8 days ago. And I'm sure I didn't timestamp. My first timestamp was at 24 minutes. But in the beginning, I highly suggest that people watch it because it ramps up. But he really, from the beginning, Chris Cuomo, just starts doing a Douglas Murray. And he's pissed that Dave Smith, people respect Dave. Basically, he's pissed that people respect Dave Smith's opinion more than his. That's what you can tell. And then, he brings Dave Smith up through the whole fucking podcast. But he was really, the beginning was him just going in on Dave Smith and Joe Rogan. And Tim trying to keep it cordial, and then Tim couldn't have it anymore, and Tim started to become. Remember, what did you just say? Oh, his CNN is the CNN? No, what'd you say that people didn't really? Oh, the hot ones, right?
Yeah.
That people probably weren't gonna like it because he didn't get to be his full self. That's what I took it as, right?
Yeah.
I feel like at the beginning of this podcast, he was tame and not him, and then he unleashed and became his full self in this podcast. 24 minutes my first time staying.
Okay, if you're not on the ground there, you don't talk to people in the region.
Oh God,
through no filter. No filter. And isn't that what Tim Dillon says about what happened when he was in Gaza?
Most people in this country around 2004, 2005 were starting to see the folly of the Iraq war. They were starting to see that the Bush doctrine of preemptive war to supposedly democratize the Middle East had failed, or was in a process of failing. Almost none of those people had visited Iraq or Afghanistan. I would say that 99.9% of them had never visited that country. But the images coming out of that region and the news from a common sense perspective allowed most people to say that engaging in this type of foreign policy was an error.
I agree. And you don't have to be in a place to understand it, obviously.
Right.
However, from a journalist's perspective, the idea that you understand the fabric of a conflict and you haven't been around it, I get why that would be upsetting because that is a standard for us. Now, the war, I lived, right? And I signed up as an early embed. And I lost a lot of guys on 9/11, and it had a big impact on me, and I was here for it, and I watched it in real time. We knew there were no weapons of mass destruction much earlier, and the Bush administration shut us down, said that we were threatening operational security of troops on the ground in the Middle East. The American people agreed and stopped watching the news.
Hey. I heard him say that another time before. He said that on Adam Friedland's podcast before.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, so you were complicit in hiding that? Okay. Weird.
It's fucking weird.
Feelings, which I think CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, people are less likely to feel that way about anchors on those networks.
Yeah, I also think that, yes, I think that that's a fair appraisal. I think Joe's limiting feature is that I don't think a lot of people find him to be serious on serious topics. I think he's authentic. Sometimes he gets out over his skis. That seems to be happening more recently. Why? Because he's getting scrutinized differently. And the power of his platform is what? His guests. He gets all of the best guests. Why? Because he's got the most reach. We know why they're there. They're there to
Such
sell
a
whatever
hater,
it is
man.
that they're into.
Hater.
And
I think any media platform that's ever been invented, the guests are there to sell something.
Oh, 100%. I'm not, again, it's not unique. All media is the same. It's just the delivery device.
Yeah.
And podcasts will be the same thing. They're going to start getting bought up. And you'll see an evolution. You'll see Bill Burr is going to be put into a position to rival Rogan soon. They're going to get other talent, Jerry Seinfeld. They're going to get other funny people
started doing
who
this,
they're going to try to
Tim
encroach on
Dillon
his
was
space. And
done
we'll
with
see
taking it.
where
like,
they
oh,
develop
yeah?
an audience and where they
Time
don't.
to go on offense.
But I do think that there's risk in all this. And here's in watching what you do and watching what I do, the idea that, as you said, agreeable nihilism. We were joking, but there's a real truth in that. None of it matters. Nothing is true. Nothing is real. It's all how you feel. You know, that's what it is. You can go any way on anything. I think there's a danger in that, and I think we're living it. I don't know how aware of it we are.
Yeah, I would internalize it a little differently. Not that nothing is real, but like your family's real, your friends are real, your community is real. The internet largely isn't real. What a lot of what politicians and media figures say is not necessarily real. We've established that. So the nihilism to me is like it's a cynicism that's relatively healthy because it can keep you alive and it can keep you from going broke. It can keep you from falling for anything a huckster says. So I don't internalize nihilism as like this complete emptiness or void of meaning. I think it's just having a very healthy skepticism and cynicism about the narratives that are being pushed all the time.
But why do conspiracies pop in a unique way in American culture now, especially on digital media? For instance,
because I think
Tim Dillon is going to do well. If you were someone who was talking to me about why the government isn't talking to us about UAPs, you'd do 1.5 times as well. Why?
Sure. Yes, maybe. I mean, I think that the problem with this conversation about experts is that the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal are supposed to be diametrically opposed on a lot of things. You know, their position is very different.
Yeah.
But really,
they're never going to tell us about UAPs because they're not going to give that away to China and Russia, right?
Oh, come on. I believe both have it.
Yeah, because China's stealing.
are being blackmailed, whether some of them just have ruthless career ambition. Whatever it is, they seem to be on the same side of all these issues. I think that's where a lot of this conspiracy stuff comes from.
Why is it
Listen to this
that
idiot.
people on the fringe right seem to engage in conspiracies more? Is it a coincidence that Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk are more interested in the Epstein files? Is it a coincidence that Rogan was, talking so much about Epstein killing himself versus being murdered? Why do we hear more of that on the right?
I think there's people on the fringe left, if you remember, and I listen, I think Epstein probably was murdered. I mean, I don't think there's well, based on the idea that the cameras went out and the guards fell asleep, and he had information on some of those most powerful people in the world, and his best friend, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Seymour Hersh, wrote a book alleging that he was an agent of the Mossad, and they had what clearly seems like a honeypot operation, and that all of these politicians were on his jet. Like, it feels like, again, just from an outsider's point of view, he got a sweetheart deal for the first time he was accused and convicted of being inappropriate with a minor. And I don't know the exact terminology. He did a lot more than be inappropriate with a minor. But you have this intriguing, weird figure who's connected to all of these very powerful people. and has an island where people are going to meet up with underage women, and all of these people are coming out and testifying to that effect. And then right before his trial, he dies. I mean, Chris, let's be honest. If we're talking about the mafia, and we're talking about a guy that had information on all of these big, powerful people, and he gets whacked, does not a part of your brain, and I'm, Kirk or Johnson or Rogan or whoever, me or anybody who's looking at this, and people on the left and the fringe left also has some conspiracies. One of them was that Donald Trump was an agent of Russia. And by the fringe left, I mean every media organization, including the one you used to work for, every day was Russiagate. So to me, it's like, don't you look at the Epstein thing and for a minute say to yourself, yes, it is possible that this guy who is involved in potentially blackmailing people, but certainly involved in human trafficking and connected to all these wealthy, powerful people, gets whacked before he can say any of their names?
Yes.
Bro, Chris Cuomo asked for this. He wouldn't. And I know he is a super pro-Israeli fucking person, Chris Cuomo. I know he is. His brother is. It is unreal. And he asked for that by pressing the stupid narratives. It was so funny. Made me fucking laugh. 45 minutes.
He's right. He is not wrong to not apologize for things that people find offensive. I honestly, I know that sounds rude. I know that doesn't sound adult.
I agree with you,
but he's
also
right.
This is
because
a
if he were to apologize, he'd get killed.
A little bit about the moral high ground, and I think the idea is that like podcasters don't have a moral high ground and they're just peddling whatever, but then there are these experts.
I don't think there's any moral high ground. I don't think there has been for a long time, because look at what happened with Trump, okay? You can write 3 books on how what happened to him with Russiagate or whatever you want to call it was wrong. What was the first thing he did when he got in power? He went after Biden for being a Ukrainian-Russian plant. The first thing he did was go after Biden and his son, weaponizing a guy's addiction. I don't know how much you know about that world, but unfortunately...
Bro, Chris fucked up so many times in his own podcast. I'll give him props, he put it out. Tim ripped him by...
That's why it was emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I was an addict for many years, from when I started doing cocaine at 12 and I stopped at 25, and I never ended up in the Ukraine, and I never took a photo of everything I did and put it on a laptop.
But you know
and then
very
dropped
well,
it off at Circuit City.
But you know very well that Hunter Biden is a typical drug-addled person.
I know
I'm not saying that he didn't do business deals.
People, very few of them ended up in the Ukraine, and I mean, their dads were the vice president.
It's not about why he wasn't
It's
in
a
the
unique
Ukraine.
life, let's say that.
But
it's a unique life.
You would have to look at...
None of my drug addict friends ended up in Malibu selling art for $80,000.
You would have to find drug-addled people who also were wealthy with connections of people in power, right?
Okay, that's very true.
A lot of junkies don't wind up that way. My point is this. It was so wrong what was done to Trump. It was so wrong. It was so destructive that he then did the exact same thing as soon as he got in power.
Well, what do we expect? If this is the standards that we're all setting, it becomes... If this guy is attacked relentlessly for being an asset of a foreign power, and then we have the vice president's son in the Ukraine up to God only knows what, with a laptop full of pictures that
nothing came. A laptop full of pictures is not the standard. He said he was on the take from Ukraine, and all the money was going to his uncle and his dad. And by the way, Joe should have never let his son be doing deals like he was when Joe was in office. My father would have never allowed it. My brother never did anything like that. He wouldn't allow me to do it. And I had opportunities falling on my head all the time that would have been legal, by the way.
If Don Jr. had that laptop surface with those type of photos where you
Exactly
were
what I always said.
Photos that are personally hurtful would be spread all over the place, and then some if it were the Trumps, in a way that it wasn't done with Biden.
Every
Even worse.
intelligence chief said this was
Even worse.
Russian disinformation, and it was censored for a period of time on X and some of the biggest media platforms in the world. And a lot of people would say that that's election interference. You had guys like John Brennan and Hayden and Clapper, and these are like the kings of the national security state. These are not underlings. They're not people that aren't good at spotting what Russian disinfo was, right? John Brennan led the CIA for many years. I'm sure he knows what Russian disinfo
But even
is.
if they come to
Man, Chris Cuomo, I was not prepared.
Mm-mm.
One last little bit at the end of this
Tim's
podcast.
too smart.
Tim's too smart, and he really found out. He told him, bro. He's at the end. He's just like, "I'll give you my number if you ever need anything." That's what Chris Crow was saying to Tim. Making me laugh because it's like, bro, he realized, oh shit, this is why he's got all these followers and shit.
You can't just say we're going to have 10 zip codes where things work, and then we're just going to let everybody else, deal with all these problems, and those people are rightfully angry.
I agree 100%. And I want to say thank you. I want to say that I'll give you my number. I'm always a text away. You
I
ever
am an
want me on the
expert,
show?
though. Maybe the other people you mentioned weren't experts, but I feel like I'm the expert. I think that's what we've learned at the end of this interview, that if the expertise means, hey, it's me. I didn't even realize early on, but now, after doing this for an hour, I realize I think I'm an expert.
I have great regard.
Episode's 2 more minutes long, and Tim ends this with a great smile because he's like, shit. He was so calm at the beginning, and he was calm to becoming his full self by the end.
The regular Tim.
Because Chris Cuomo wanted to say stupid shit about Dave Smith and Joe Rogan, and that really set it off. And then he started going, and he knows so much about Iraq and Afghanistan in that time that he really ripped then. And then, like Chris Cuomo just was shook, bro. He was shook.
Good.
I think I showed you or had you listen to a couple of these, but this is when he was on Adam Friedland's fucking podcast. And he kind of like said some of the same stuff, but Adam Friedland's a totally different person.
They felt that I actually knew something. And what was interesting was I did. Because I was talking to all of the people at the center of that dynamic, like Tony Fauci, the guys who were working on the antibody treatment, the guys who were working on the drug protocols, the guys, like they were all in my sphere of existence because I was like a guinea pig for everybody.
Project Warp Speed.
A great irony.
It was crazy that he said that because he was around all these people that knew all this shit, and then he got all of it wrong about COVID. It was funny in there where he admitted that, and I'm like, bro, that means all of them were all lying the whole time, and you were parroting it at all.
For money.
Yeah, for millions of dollars, you parroted lies and went after Rogan, and then Rogan made him look bad, and that's why he's a hater.
Entire planet.
But I don't know funny.
Absolutely not.
With Finkelstein?
It's kind of awkward. If I had bangs, I would push it.
With Finkelstein.
No.
Or
Oh,
academic
yes.
rival.
This
Where
is
he
the
asked you to
funniest and
make a joke.
craziest.
But he cut me off at the
lynching
end.
joke.
I had the joke, and he cut me off. Can I tell you the end of the joke?
Okay.
Okay, so he's like, so let me give you a fact pattern. In the South, people were lynched and their body parts were chopped up and sold at auction. Make a joke about that.
And then people would take pictures with them. You said you want me to make a joke about Emmett Till.
And I said, you want me to make a joke about
Strike
Emmett Till?
one.
But then I immediately realized what the joke was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, my mother, she was a real battle axe. She had me lynched. And then the joke is, my body was cut up and sold for parts. The worst part of all of it was that they couldn't give my penis away.
He should have let you finish.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not as bad as the way he played in the clip. And I don't know why he doesn't like Dershowitz.
Why? Because he ruined his life.
And
Dershowitz had him denied tenure at DePaul University. He couldn't work for 10 years.
and
I
are
mean,
you gonna blame somebody else for your problems your whole life?
yeah, it was literally, yes, a man with massive political influence, yes.
And you're sure that it was that Alan Dershowitz?
What, are you friends with Dershowitz? He went to a pedophile island.
You see how you can have a
Why is it-
conversation about absolutely anything?
What do you mean? But what position are you taking right now?
I'm not taking any. See, that's the beauty of it.
Oh, you keep
See,
asking questions. That's how you jackpot after World War II. We rebuilt Europe. We blew it in 1.5 generations. So the mafia.
I was trying to distract from what you were vomiting out of your face.
You're older than me. You had Reagan was the president when you were a teenager, right?
Yes.
Okay. When I was a teenager, Bush was the president, and I fucking hated Bush
Hey, why would you ever invest that in anybody else?
because they killed 1 million people. It's wrong. I don't understand why people don't.
I don't
fucking
love
hate
and I
Bush,
don't
though.
hate. Here's what I don't like about it.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it's an easier way to live. You're young. You
I'm not-
probably haven't had enough pain.
I'm not gonna kill Bush, but like, come on, like they went to the UN and they made up shit to go to fucking war. It was wrong.
Listen, I agree.
Remember, this is where he says the same shit about, but this is a year before that Tim Dillon podcast where he says something like they told him to basically cover up what's going on.
Never accepted the yellow cake thing. I lived it in real time. I went over there in real time. I felt the backlash from the American people. One of the greatest propaganda moves in my lifetime, 25 plus years in this business. We are railing on Bush for there having been no WMDs, weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And they come out with a great spin. I forget who it was. Maybe Ari. I forget.
Ari Shaffir?
No. Now I'm not going to know his name.
Fleischer.
Ari Fleischer, thank you. They come up with the following spin. Hey, this no WMD, this yellow cake stuff, this ersatz, all that stuff. Stop saying that. You're hurting morale. The American people believed it, stopped watching the news. And you know what we started to do? I was at ABC News at the time.
Uh-huh.
We stopped saying it.
Bitch?
We stopped saying it.
Why do you listen to them?
He called him a bitch.
People turn you off. You will not keep saying what made them turn you
So
off.
that's my main question, right? Okay. There are 3 8 p.m. primetime slots.
He's like, he saying that, hey, yeah, we just like covered for the government so they could keep doing what they were doing.
So wild.
I know.
Motherfucker's kidding.
Like, bro. I knew it, you fuckers. That's what I'm thinking. I knew it, you fuckers. You guys are liars. That's what you do.
Funny, but you also
Millions of
make me
dollars to
nostalgic
lie.
at the same
Read a
time. And not just
teleprompter.
because you have the same shoes on as my 4th grade nun, but because I like the vibe of this is very Kavanaugh-esque.
Yeah. That's what I'm going for.
Hey, what better standard of a guy who knows funny talking to people about a whole range of things than that cat?
He's not that funny. He was just good at talking to people.
He was good at making the other person the best version of themselves.
He wasn't dropping bombs like, I've been
Well,
doing.
you throw
Wait,
in.
I'll do one that you don't want to laugh at, but
There's zero chance you can make me laugh if I don't want to.
okay.
But if you want, I'll participate.
Okay.
I love comedy.
All right. So
And I'm a Friedland fan.
you famously said that the name Fredo
Yeah.
was like the N-word for Italians.
Yes, that was a mistake.
Isn't that actually just the N-word? Because I hear a lot of y'all boys
No,
saying
because
that.
it's a different word. But here's what I.
Bro. Adam Friedland will say the funniest shit. Got one more. Huh?
Seems like a savage.
Yeah, he is. He's fucking funny. And he's smart. That's the fun. That's the best when a smart, funny person.
One of the main attachments to her was that there was a relatability to her experience. And I think what that can do is throw you off in terms of assessing her productivity.
She wins the elections.
I know, but the question is why? You can win elections.
She's not
for
winning
reasons
because
or
she's a
bad reasons.
bartender. That's not. Come on, that's. Do you think there were guys that were like on Tinder, like in NYC, like 8 years ago, who were like just like turned on a TV and saw her, and then they're like, I think I fucked the president. I think this chick I met 8 years ago, some guy in Bushwick, he's like, I'm pretty sure I fucked the president.
That is the Bushwick accent
Yeah.
now. Do you find AOC attractive?
No, she's cute, yeah.
Now,
She's
do
cute.
you find her attractive in the same way that you did in 2020 when you saw me during the pandemic?
I was going through a tough time with that, bro. And
Me
like,
too.
not as bad as me.
Really?
I'd rather fuck AOC though.
I don't see it as a competition.
I like Dua Lipa.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. My daughter is a
I would
singer,
let her.
and she would sing Dua Lipa, and I love what she does.
I don't know her
some people will
songs.
say, "Oh no, too sexy, it objectifies." But I'm telling you, I watched my daughter, and her kind of resonating with the vibe, you know, and the empowerment principle of it.
I don't know the songs,
I loved
but
it.
I would let her shit in my mouth this show.
Where does that come from? Seriously, where does it
I
come
don't know,
from?
it just came out. I don't know.
Where? Like, did you see that somewhere, or?
It wouldn't even be pleasant if she did
This
that.
absolutely would not be.
Let Dua Lipa shit in his mouth, he says. To Chris Cuomo. Bro, fucking makes me die. You told me about it, and I'm like, I know, trust, I'm gonna watch it. Did you watch Kash Patel on Joe Rogan?
Some of it, yeah.
Some of it. There's a couple funny parts in it. Did you see funny parts in it?
I shook my head a couple times.
I know that Kash Patel will never go on there again because he will not subject himself to that. It annoyed me. Like, it annoyed me. And especially because I watched it. So to watch him be... JD Vance is a way better person at answering questions than Kash Patel is. Kash Patel's not good at answering questions.
Later to say, well, I just wanted to keep it private. And I said, hey, man, your life when you're the Secretary of Defense, Director of the FBI, Director of the CIA, it ain't about being private. That's gone. You signed up to serve the mission. And when you do that knowingly, you have literally violated the National Command Authority.
Wow. So you were saying there's a bunch of misinformation that was put out.
Yeah.
Or
Who do you think had more, like, security at... Kash Patel shows up with how much security? He's got some, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then, but Joe's got security too, eh? How many people are standing out there? Are they talking? Are they conversing? You've seen the Putin, Xi Jinping, and like his bodyguards. You ever see a clip where like one of Putin's bodyguards and the Xi Jinping's bodyguard, they acknowledge each other? Is it like that going on out there? Like,
Violence.
is it silence? Are they like sitting down? Are they just standing there on guard, like watching each other? Like, what's going on? Because there's a bunch of each of them. Joe and Kash Patel each got killers. And then I wondered, I'm like, does Kash Patel think, does he believe that he could take Joe Rogan one-on-one, you think?
No.
No, eh? Isn't that crazy? The head of the FBI probably can't take a 57-year-old guy.
For the That's not your average 57-year-old guy, though.
I know. I remember him saying that before when he was like 56, I think, and flexing his arm. He's like, I'm not your average 50. They don't make, or 30 years ago or something, there was no 56-year-olds like this or something. He says something like that. Like, and he flexes his bicep.
Disinformation. Like, what was that?
Ooh, Picker. So my thing is all roads lead to Russiagate, right? That's
Right.
where it all started. I was coming out of my tour at JSOC as a civilian.
I really try to emphasize this. How much lies there were during that time that everyone ignores. It's like a COVID. The Russiagate is like a COVID. And they kept saying that Trump was a Russian asset for years. Just like all the mainstream news, everything, every single day. And it was all a lie. Made up by Hillary Clinton. Or made up by Hillary Clinton's campaign, I guess, to be specific. They're the ones that were fined. And then it just ignored, just like COVID. It's like there was just years of lying that it's going to stop the spread and all this shit like that. And it was just like, they were just making it all up and parroting all the same thing. And then we're just supposed to like move on, forget about it. Years of lying, don't remember that. Don't remember that. That's what it always seems. So I just keep trying to emphasize like all these lies. And then, you ever see John Kiriakou? He was on Tucker recently, but he's been on lots of other podcasts in the past. He is former CIA. He the people that were involved in sending him to jail were the people that were involved in Russiagate. I had just brought these guys up on a podcast, a few of them recently, because they're all just involved. And all the lies. These CIA guys are just lying constantly. And those are supposed to be the credible sources.
And DOJ, and I would end up going to Congress to run this thing called Russiagate, which at the time, no one knew anything. It was just whatever. And then it became what it became. And I would be the guy, the lead investigator on the Hill, who said, hey man, look, they lied in the FISA application. Let me give you Russiagate in 90 seconds.
Okay.
Russiagate in 90 seconds.
Could you imagine a time in the United States of America in the 21st century where a political party would go overseas and acquire fake foreign intelligence from a foreign intelligence officer funded by donations to that political party in the United States of America, then take that material, package it, walk it to the FBI, literally, and say, hey, we need you to surveil the opponent of our political party who happens to be running for the president of the United States. Then convince the FBI to go into a secret federal FISA court that I used to use to manhunt terrorists and say, hey, I need you to wiretap, essentially, all the comms in and around Trump camp because of the material we gave you, and then have that FBI lie to the federal court and the judge in that warrant application, which is a felony, and intentionally remove information of innocence from that application just to get it above the threshold so the judge would sign it. That's Russiagate. That's what they did. And you remember the years and years of reporting surrounding Russiagate. The FBI would never lie. They would never do that. The leadership there is above reproach. James Comey, Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok. The list goes on. We caught him red-handed. We caught him. You've seen the text messages. You've seen the documentation. You've seen the reports. But when I did that, when I exposed that initially as a staffer on the Hill, Adam Schiff comes out and has his cronies leak to the world that I am acting as a genocidal dictator. There was actually an article that called me...
Genocidal
Hang on, it gets better.
dictator?
Yeah, no, it gets better.
How do you get to be a dictator?
I don't know. Genocidal one, let alone, right? Like, you know, it's a twofer.
His words don't even mean anything anymore.
No, there's an article out there that they called me Torquemada, the guy from the Spanish Inquisition.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, Cash Patel is half black. I don't know if you know that because he looks really Indian, but did you know that he's half black? Yeah, and I always wondered if he ever used the N-word because he looks Indian, right?
Yeah.
But he's half black. His dad's African. How was I just clicking off that? But I remember right there. I remember hearing in there when he was saying that, and I was like, "Oh man!" I remember wondering if you ever used the N-word because everyone he's just looks like, yeah, like one of the dark Indian guys.
Imagine how psychotic the response would be. People would be up in arms and furious. But the same people that would be up in arms and furious if somebody tried to do that for Obama are completely silent if it's happening to Trump.
Yeah, just think about it. What if me, as the FBI director in the Trump administration, right, during a presidential cycle, went out there and said, hey, Republican National Committee, do you guys have dirt on whoever's running for the Democratic nomination to be president of the United States? If you don't, can you go overseas and pay a foreign national who used to be an MI6 guy, get me some bogus intel? Then I, as the FBI director, will authorize a warrant. I'll leak to the media while I'm doing it, take their articles, put it in that warrant, and then go surveil the opponent so he doesn't get elected. I would be in prison, which I should be.
That's what Hillary Clinton did.
And that's what people want.
That's what Hillary Clinton did. Or the Hillary Clinton campaign. They went, and that's the Steele dossier. Just ignore it though. Forget about it.
The guys that, wrapping it back up, or reversing it back up, the guys that were in charge of Russiagate at the FBI, Andy McCabe, right? Remember what this guy did. Andy McCabe agreed to set in motion a plan with the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein at the time to have him wear a wire into the Oval Office to record President Trump. Those documents we found, we released them. Whoa. Put that aside. While Andy McCabe was in charge of the Trump-Russia-Gate collusion investigation, his wife was running for political office in the state of Virginia. Do you know who's funding her campaign for political office to $600,000? Hillary Clinton world, who happened to be running against Donald Trump. Do you know what Andy McCabe did? He leaked information about the Clinton investigation to the media, unlawfully, as the deputy director of the FBI. Got caught by us, then lied about it to federal authorities. And that's the reason Andy McCabe was dismissed. Do you know what the Biden administration did? They allowed him to retire out of the FBI with full benefits. Wow. He got rewarded. You know what he does now? He's on CNN. You know who's also on CNN? Peter Strzok, the head of the counterintelligence unit that had that affair with Lisa Page, who basically put out those text messages, who was running that investigation with Andy McCabe and said, Trump people smell in Walmart and we're never going to let him win. I have an insurance policy. That guy's on CNN. So they get rewarded for putting on this disinformation campaign, for this illegal activity, because the media will never correct, or some portion of the media will never correct the record. Remember, these guys got Pulitzers. New York Times, same thing. These guys got the...
Just a bunch of bullshit.
Bunch of bullshit.
And I just was going in a podcast recently, just going over a bunch of this stuff. And then Castrodell goes and fucking puts it in way better detail. And Joe doesn't pull any of their faces and stuff up. Like, those people are pieces of shit that he's naming them. And they were doing that for multiple things over all the years they were in power. All the way to an hour, too.
It goes back to Russiagate. If you're willing to use Mickey Mouse journalism, if you're willing to use the Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele's of the world, like the leadership at the FBI then did, then it has a chance to replicate itself. And that's what happened. I don't know if you know anything about the Southern Poverty Law Center, but they literally are the ones that sent information to the FBI, and the FBI said, we'll write a memo. And so that's the type of work that I think gives credibility back to the Bureau, us exposing it, us giving Congress the truth, Congress coming back in and saying, hey, you actually didn't give us the Heisman. You gave us the documents, we gave them to the American people. And if there are criminal referrals to come out of that, then let's do that. I mean, we just had a great breakthrough this week.
You know the Heisman?
Yep.
I bet you Joe doesn't know it. Because Joe doesn't know football like that. He doesn't know that, like, when Castrotel just said, oh, like, they would give us the stiff arm, basically, when we'd ask for things. That's what he was referring to. I bet you Joe didn't get that reference. When he said they'd give us the Heisman.
On Fauci. So Senator Rand Paul, Senator Kennedy,
I learned this. I didn't know this.
I forget people are doing a great job with us on COVID origins, and we've got multiple investigations open on that. But they had always been looking for Fauci's original phone, or not original, but phones and devices he used while he was Fauci back in Trump one during COVID, and nobody had found it till 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah. Now look, your audience and everybody listening to it shouldn't jump to the conclusion everything's in there. We'll look at it. We'll pull it.
I didn't know that they'd stumbled upon some more stuff. And I expect nothing because, like, exceptional from the FBI, because I watched him lie about fucking Epstein later in the podcast.
He's in space and underwater. They are literally.
I think right here he's talking about China. And I know, right? They do this kind of stuff to us in Canada here too. Oh yeah, he's even got a newspaper. That's what makes me laugh. You know, he doesn't have a lot of answers about Epstein, but he has a lot of. He even brought a newspaper about China.
A book, maybe because they want notoriety. I don't know the answer to that, but for me, it's all national security related, and these people keep doing it over and over again. The good thing is now there's a bulwark against it because we're in, and the president just is not having any of it.
What was the case very recently where you guys caught a scientist bringing in pathogens? Yeah.
So I'm a New Yorker, and I brought this for a reason.
This means spore.
Yeah.
Fucking New York Post is the best.
You gotta do
They're the best. They have the best headlines ever.
Yeah. So
it's so funny.
It's based. So the case is still It's obviously ongoing since we just made the arrest. So I'm a little limited in what I can say. But backing up the truck a little bit, agro-terrorism is a thing, right? The CCP isn't just coming at us with fentanyl and coming at us in our cyber infrastructure and our capabilities in space and underwater. They are literally exporting people to the United States of America, having them end up being senior researchers, like this individual at the University of Michigan. And the Bureau picked up on this and said, wait a second, why are you bringing you, and her husband is also indicted, but he's in mainland China, so he's not here. But we retraced what he did, and what's public now is that he also tried to come to this country to do the same thing. So they were making the connections on that. But what they did was literally bring in a mushroom that technically alone exists, in the U.S., but in an altered state causes billions of dollars of damage to wheat, to corn, to maize, and to agricultural industry, and also could wipe out your livestock and causes reproductive damage to human beings. And so this is the lethality in terms of the mindset of people.
Crazy, eh? Right?
I mean, it's funny though.
What's him saying that though? There are documents that the United States has released now. They were trying to do that. That's what they were studying to do, to drop like a mist over top of Russia to destroy their crops back in the day. To starve the Russians. That was a goal of the United States.
Health. I think posting things public all day and arguing with people all day is bad for you.
Well, you raise a great point. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Half of what we have to respond to is the click army on social media.
Right. And 50% of that plus is bots.
50% of that plus is bots, but let's take the other 50% of that is just constantly pushing out information to sell t-shirts or subscriptions or whatever, listen to my show. And then people are like, hey, FBI, why aren't you looking at this thing in Oklahoma? And I'm like, because it's fake. I don't have time for that. And
Right.
and so to your point on like, social media does have a great use in terms of me. And so the reason Dan and I don't do a lot of media is because we're the FBI. Like, let our work speak for itself.
Right.
But we have to find the right balance of going to do media and posting on social media the things we're doing and keeping people updated. And so that's the delicate balance we're trying. But what I'm learning is no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. It's going to just completely not make everyone happy. And there's no solve for that in terms of how the FBI operates.
Joe didn't tell
But
him not
at
to
the
read
same
the
time,
comments,
the FBI
even though it
was
sounded
for-
like he needed to tell
We're
him,
gonna
don't read the
keep
comments.
Like, do you know, I mean, I've already told you I've been called a genocidal dictator, which is ironic since I'm the son of a man who fled a genocidal dictatorship in East Africa, and his parents lawfully immigrated to this country and had me, and now their kid's the FBI director, first generation Indian kid. Kind of a pretty freaking cool story.
That is a cool story.
But I'm like, that's what me and Dan say all the time. You can call us whatever you want.
But genocidal dictator, like that, those words don't mean anything anymore if you're calling you that.
Well, that's what I mean.
You're not a dictator and you're not genocidal. So what are you doing tagging both of those together? What is the proof?
And what is the media doing printing it?
That's insane. That's an insane thing. But I think they were given a mandate to be the attack dogs.
Because the media will allow them to be propped up.
Wow.
And it's the same, look, totally switching gears, but a similar disinformation tale. January 6th, right? I was chief of staff at DOD on January 6th. Days before January 6th, I was in the Oval Office with the President, the Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on a foreign matter. And on that day, he goes, hey, how's it looking for January 6th? Do you guys have everything you need? And he goes, I'm going to authorize up to 10 to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women if you guys need them anywhere in the country. The reason that's important is because we can't uniformly deploy military in the United States. That's what the National Guard's for. But in order to do that, the president has to, one, authorize it, and two, the mayor or governor, so it's DC, so it's the mayor and the Capitol Police and the Speaker of the House are in charge, have to request the deployment of troops. We went to them days before January 6th. We went to Bowser, went to Pelosi. They said no in writing. We were excoriated for it. Your guys were lying. You didn't offer this up.
I know. Do you ever see the video of Nancy Pelosi's daughter taking a video? They're in a vehicle and
I've seen it.
and Nancy Pelosi saying, should have. She's done. Nancy Pelosi, I seen another video and she's done. She can't talk anymore. It's over for her. She's too old.
Yeah.
She's possibly worse than Biden right now. She's brutal. So she's going to be donezo. Last time stamp.
Made it somewhat of a concerted effort to try to be objective for a while. They brought on Scott Jennings. They've changed a bunch of things in that regard, but it's still like some of the panel talks they have. You're just like, what fucking planet are you guys even living on?
Right, and the problems we're facing, he does a good job of highlighting. He's like, hey man, these pro-Hamas positions didn't happen overnight. They happened because we let in all these people from all over the world, and they came in and they started attending our universities and they started getting together and they started seeing in the media that was a quote-unquote popular thing to do. And then that ethos spread, and now look what we have. We have chaos on college campuses. We've got lone wolf attackers. We've got terrorists. We've got openings for our narco traffickers. We haven't even touched upon what our adversaries are doing to our cyber infrastructure. I mean, Salt Typhoon is a massive telecommunications breach engineered by the CCP. It's public. It's not classified. And they literally got into our United States of America's telecommunications providers. Broken. And we are playing catch up.
Isn't that fucked? I didn't put any Epstein stuff in there because I'm sure everybody's already seen Kash Patel's clips or whatever of Epstein. And he just lies the whole time, so I figured they were pointless to put. China is a bigger worry. We're not getting
Makes
any...
no sense.
Huh?
The world makes zero sense. China's the biggest worry, so let's do the most business with them.
I know. Trump struck a deal. I saw he posted today.
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia and China. Those are we're the tightest with. And Israel, our greatest ally.
And Ukraine are the greatest ally.
Yep. Javier Milei in Argentina. Good hour 25 episode.